Good evening. My name is Pamela Davidson. I'm a proud member of the Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals. We know our chairperson, Margaret Clemens, is on her way. She's assured us she's coming. But in the meantime, let's call the meeting to order and do some of our procedural things. So we'll call the meeting to order here at whatever time it is, 5:03 p.m. And I will ask for a roll call of attendees.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Margaret Clemens, Skip Daly, Pamela Davidson,
I am here.
Guy Loftman,
Here.
Jeff Morris.
Here.
Okay, so we have 3 members in person and a quorum.
All right, and may I ask for a motion to introduce tonight's evidence?
Move that we introduce tonight's evidence.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to introduce the following items into the evidence. I'd like to introduce the following items into the evidence. The Monroe County Development Ordinance as adopted and amended. The Monroe County Comprehensive Plan as adopted and amended. The Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals Rules of Procedure as adopted and amended. And the cases that were legally advertised and scheduled for a hearing on tonight's agenda.
May I ask for a motion for the introduction of evidence?
I move we introduce the evidence again.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the introduction of evidence. A vote yes is a vote to approve. Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Jeff Morris.
Yes.
Motion is approved 3-0.
All right. May we now have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Did I understand that there may be a change in the agenda, or will we do that when we get to the one item was not going to be heard tonight?
I think since they requested a continuance within the 7-day period, we'll get to it when we hear the item, just
Very
per
good.
the rules of
Okay.
procedure.
I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt tonight's agenda, which, just as a note for the public, this meeting tonight is a rescheduled meeting from our April 2nd Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. So tonight's not a normal BZA night, but we moved all agenda items over to tonight's agenda. So a vote yes is a vote to approve the agenda as noticed and as posted. Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson.
Yes.
Motion is approved 3-0.
All right, one other matter of business. We need to approve our minutes of both February 5th, 2025 and also March 2nd, 2025. There's our Margaret. And when one of my fellow members makes the motion, will you indicate is it for both sets of minutes or just for one?
I move to approve both sets of minutes and welcome our chair.
And I'll second that.
Okay. I'll note for the record that Margaret Clemens has attended the meeting, so thank you. I'll go ahead and call the roll, including Margaret, on the approval of the minutes February 5th and March 2nd, 2025. A vote yes is a vote to approve both sets of minutes. Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Margaret Clemens? Yes. Pamela Davidson?
Yes.
Guy Loftman?
Yes.
Motion is approved 4-0.
I apologize for being late. I just normally come at 5:30, so
I knew that.
I just didn't read well. Oh, I broke everything. Yeah. Okay, so we're moving on now to, there's no administrative business, and so we have new business, and we will, if staff could talk with us about VAR-25-7A and B. This is the Anders side yard setback variance to Chapter 805 and the Eco Area 2 maximum residential density concerning 1 acre buildable area variance to Chapter 823 concerning one parcel at 6221 South Shields Ridge Road. And I believe Mr. Myers is going to review that with us.
Thank you. So yes, this is variance 25-7A and B, Anders side yard setback variance, Chapter 805, and the Anders Eco Area 2, maximum residential density and 1 acre buildable area variance to Chapter 823. The petitioner is requesting a design standards variance to the side yard setback requirement of Chapter 805 and a design standards variance to the environmental constraints overlay Area 2 regulations of Chapter 823, specifically the maximum density, residential density, and the 1 acre contiguous buildable area regulations of that chapter. The petitioner submitted a building permit application in February 2025 to permit a 1,326 square foot interior remodeling, as well as a 150 square foot addition and a new porch and deck to the existing residence at 6221 South Shields Ridge Road. And there's images in the packet under Figure 1 and Exhibit 7 that provide information about the details of that work. The existing residential structure is considered pre-existing non-conforming because the structure does not meet the 10-foot required setback for the residential 1 zoning district. According to that district, the residential structures must be a setback of a minimum of 10 feet from a side property line. The existing residence currently sits approximately 5 to 6 feet from the property line, according to the petitioner's submitted site plan and the available GIS data. The proposed 150 square foot addition does not extend any distance further into the side setback, neither does either the proposed porch or the proposed deck. So that expansion is triggering the variance procedure because the residence is already in the setback. Even though they're not encroaching further into the setback, it's still considered pre-existing non-conforming and therefore requires the variance when new work is proposed. Prior to the adoption of the County Development Ordinance, which was on December 18th, 2024, this petition site was zoned suburban residential, or SR, and according to Chapter 804 of that zoning ordinance, the side setback for structures in that zone was actually 5 feet. It's possible that they were meeting that setback based on the information that we have with respect to GIS and the petitioner's submitted site plan. However, now that the zone has changed, that setback has been increased to 10 feet. During the review process, the petitioner's building permit application, staff informed the petitioner of the eco area, that is also known as the Lake Monroe watershed. And according to Chapter 823, there are several requirements with respect to that designation, including a maximum residential density of 1 unit per 2.5 acres, as well as each dwelling unit shall have at least 1 acre of total contiguous buildable area land. Now, this petition site exhibits only 0.92 acres, so therefore, by default, they do not meet either of those requirements, being that they are smaller than 2.5 acres, as well as cannot satisfy the 1 acre of contiguous buildable area land. Both of those regulations are evaluated together under VAR-25-7B per the direction of the planning director. All right, so if the design standards variances are approved, the petitioner will be able to continue with the permitting process for their proposed work on the single-family residence, and future development on the site must comply with applicable setbacks. And the Eco Area 2 variances that they've applied for do run with the land in perpetuity. If any of the design standards variances are denied, the petitioner will be unable to pursue the proposed footprint expansion or other exterior changes detailed under the proposed project. However, the petitioner could pursue the interior remodeling portion for that type of work only requires an improvement location permit waiver by the planning department. Here on the screen, we have the location map. It's in Perry Township along South Shields Ridge Road. That turns into South Handy Road. And on the right side of the screen, we have the site conditions map that shows the slopes on the property that are greater than 15% as part of the Lake Monroe watershed area. Excuse me. As part of the Lake Monroe watershed area, slopes greater than 15% are protected from any land disturbance activity, including the removal of vegetation. But the proposed work is not going to be encroaching into any of those those sloped areas. Now on the screen is the schematic that the petitioner submitted with their building permit application that indicates the expansion areas as well as the deck and porch. The yellow is the master bedroom expansion. The green is the deck expansion, or new deck, I should say. And then the gray on the bottom of the screen to the right of the bedroom is the new porch that's proposed. Now on the screen is some aerial imagery pulled from eagle view that shows the property, and this is a 2024 aerial. On the left side of the screen, the color-coded boxes indicate what you just saw on the previous screen, where those additions are happening. And then just more imagery as you circle around the property. And then here we have some street view as well. This is imagery pulled from Google Street View from July 2023. Okay, so now on the screen is the snippet from the County Development Ordinance that shows the design standards or dimensional standards for this particular zoning district. You'll see that the minimum lot size required is 1 acre. However, it doesn't contain those 2 footnotes, 1 and 11. 1 indicating that if you're in the eco area, you have that 1 acre contiguous minimum buildable area requirement. And then footnote 11 indicating that if you can be smaller than 1 acre in this particular zone without needing a additional variance to that lot size. And then I also added the red box around the side yard setback because that is one of the other standards that is being requested for a variance. Now on the screen, we have the petitioner's letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals indicating their requests for the side yard setback as well as the Eco Area 2 variance. And here we have the submitted site plan that was provided by the petitioner. And then just more details of the construction plans for their proposed work. We can come back to any of these if necessary. Okay, that brings me to staff's recommendation. Staff recommends approval of both of the variances, that is the side yard setback variance as well as the Eco Area 2 variance, saying that practical difficulties have been demonstrated, basically indicating that the prior zone for the suburban residential under the 1997 zoning ordinance would have required a 5-foot setback, and this development would have met that. And then for the Eco Area 2 variance, practical difficulties have been demonstrated given that by default, due to the lot size, the property would not be able to meet either of those requirements. I will now take any questions.
Do members of the BZA have questions for?
I do. So my understanding is their plan is to put a roof over the existing deck and not extend the footprint of the existing patio, the concrete, the pad. Have I got that right?
So they are planning a expansion of the master bedroom area, which is indicated with the yellow on the screen. Let me get to that. And then the green is the new deck. I'm not sure if that is a covered deck area. I don't believe I can recall any details specifically detailing that, so we'll want to just double check with the petitioner. Regardless if it's covered or not covered, it is an expansion and would trigger the variance process anyways.
Anyone else? Okay, if the petitioner or the petitioner's representative is here, you please come to the podium and you'll have 15 minutes to discuss your request with us. And when you come up here, would you kindly sign in and then I'll swear you in? Thank you. Are you Mr. Anders? Thank you. Please hold up your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Is this on?
Yes, and you can move it so it's closer to your mouth, and you're not required to use all 15 minutes, but if you're free to.
So the green area is the existing porch, and I'm just going to replace the lumber on that, and it's not going to be covered. The only porch that's going to be changed is that front concrete, because there's nothing there right now, and the door's about that high from the dirt. So, and then the bedroom's very small currently, so we're just expanding the master bedroom so it's a usable space.
That looks great.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Do members of the BZA have questions for Mr. Anders? No. Okay, so what we'll do next is we'll hear from the public. If anybody is opposed to it, you'll have an opportunity to return. Okay, so is there a member of the public who is in favor of this petition? You can have a seat until later. If you're in favor, please come to the podium or raise your virtual hand. Is there a member of the public who is opposed to this petition? If so, please come to the podium here in the Nat Hill courtroom, or raise your virtual hand to be recognized. No? So I come back to the Board of Zoning Appeals for discussion and/or a motion.
I think we could make a motion to approve variance 25-7A, the Anders side yard setback variance, to Chapter 805, and also variance 25-7B, the Anders Eco Area 2 maximum residential density 1 acre buildable area variance to Chapter 823 due to practical difficulties.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve VAR-25-7A and VAR-25-7B. That's a side yard and eco area 2 maximum residential density respectively. A vote yes is a vote to approve both variances. Guy Loftman,
Yes.
Jeff Morris,
Yes.
Pamela Davidson,
Yes.
Margaret Clements.
Yes?
Motion is approved 4-0.
Thank you so much, and enjoy your new larger bedroom and porch. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to variances 3 and 4, variance 25-8A and B. This is for Simtra regarding buildable area involving a special flood hazard area, and so that requires a variance to Chapter 813, and Simtra interior landscaping variance to Chapter 830. And this concerns 129.85 plus or minus acre parcel in Section 1 of Van Buren Township at 617 South Curry Pike. And I believe that Mr. Brown will be reviewing this case with us.
Before we start on this, we did hear from the petitioner a few hours ago that they would like to continue only one part of this variance, which is VAR-25-8B, which is the interior landscaping. However, they still want us to proceed with 8A, which is the buildable area. So we're prepared to present the buildable area, and then if in your motion you want to just combine the two to say your decision on the first one and then continue the second, you could do that? Okay.
Great, thank you.
So VAR 25-8A is a design standards variance to the buildable area from Chapter 813 of the County Development Ordinance, specifically the special flood hazard area. The purpose of this is to permit a new outdoor freezer and a canopy overhang, which counts as an expansion to an existing structure. Staff has reviewed commercial site plan SIT 25-1, commercial building permits C-25-49, and flood development permit FP-25-3, which is Exhibit 4, and identified an issue with that proposed development as it pertains to the special flood hazard area. So the petitioner is proposing modifications to an existing loading dock at the site. That dock is adjacent to an existing cafeteria in the building. They're requesting the modification of adding an overhang to the south side of the building serving the cafeteria and the construction of an outdoor freezer as a new structure. The location of both modifications is in the mapped FEMA Special Flood Hazard Area Zone AE floodway, and thus is requiring a variance for buildable area. An analysis of the DNR flood and regulatory assessment, Exhibit 6, shows the base flood elevation is 843.1 feet, which makes the required flood protection grade 845.1 feet for this location. The loading dock that the proposed work is going to be located at is at elevation 845.1 feet, according to the 2003 approved site plan, which is exhibit number 7. This area is eligible as well for a letter of map revision, or LOMR, to remove the location from the mapped special HUD hazard area, which is present in Exhibit 5. And had a letter of map revision been approved, this buildable area variance would not be required, nor would they need a floodplain development permit. With all the proposed work at or above the flood protection grade, Chapter 825 flood damage prevention standards are satisfied. There is no additional impervious cover added with this project, as it is a conversion of an existing loading dock / trash collection area to a refrigerator unit to serve an already proposed cafeteria remodel. And here is the location in question. The image on the left shows the proposed site plan for that structure, and the image on the right is kind of a zoomed in image of the same. As you can see, on the right-hand side where my mouse cursor is, there is going to be a proposed canopy overhang to the existing structure. And on the left is going to be a freezer as well. They are not going to use the entirety of the loading dock. They still intend to keep some of the dumpsters there. And here is the floodplain analysis and regulatory assessment. As you can see, where my mouse cursor is, the base flood elevation is 843.1 feet. And here is a site plan that was approved back in 2003, showing the elevation of that area to be 845.1 feet. Here as well is a map showing the showing the FEMA and surveyed base flood elevation. The point of this map is that while it is outside the surveyed base flood elevation, it is still within the FEMA flood elevation. The location of the development is marked in yellow. And here are some photos of the location in question. On the left is the exterior of the loading dock, and on the right is the, for lack of a better word, interior of the loading dock. As well as the location and site conditions map. The location of the project is indicated by my mouse cursor to be right about here. And here is the zoning map and comprehensive plan map. And so staff recommends approval of VAR-25-8A due to the fact that the loading dock is above the regulatory base flood elevation and is at flood protected grade and thus compliant with the standards. If this variance is approved, the petitioner cannot receive ILPs until compliance with an ordinance is achieved pursuant to Chapter 845-2C. Upon a site visit on March 24, 2025, staff found a violation of the ordinance unrelated to this variance request and is working with representatives to resolve the issue as soon as possible. If this variance is denied, the petitioner could submit a letter of map revision for the site, which would remove the loading dock out of the mapped special flood hazard area and therefore no longer require development or a floodplain development permit. Additionally, the petitioner could redesign or locate the proposed structures to be inside the current building. We are also recommending a continuance of VAR 25-8B, which is the variance for the interior parking landscaping from Chapter 830 of the old Monroe County zoning ordinance. And are there any questions?
Do members of the BZA have questions for Mr. Brown?
I have one confusion. That is, I'm looking at the agenda, and it says Baxter, but this is all under the name Simtra. Is this?
So my understanding, and perhaps the petitioner or the representatives could shed more light on this, is that technically the owner is Baxter. However, Simtra bought Baxter.
Ah, I got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if the petitioner's representative would like to make your case to the BZA, we're glad to hear from you. Is this you? Can you please come to the podium, or? Okay. Oh, the person has, his or her hand raised. So if tech services could unmute the person, and then I think on your end, you'll also have to unmute yourself. Is there a way also to turn on your camera? Okay, so could you please state your name?
Brian, if we unfortunately cannot hear you. It does show that your mic is unmuted, though.
Who is the person? What is the name?
His name is Brian Sheward.
Okay, Mr. Sheward. We still can't hear you, so if you would,
I have the number on the screen. I don't know if that's right, though. It says 812. I don't see that number online either. I did see a phone number prior, but now I don't see a number.
okay.
See a few other folks that are on behalf of the Simtra team, and maybe they want to raise their hand to speak. Brian, we would recommend just go ahead, leave the meeting, and try and rejoin.
There's a
Looks like
second person.
A second person has their hand raised. David Lambiaso.
Mr. Lambias.
Correct. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. And would you kindly state your name and raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I'm raising my hand. I apologize. My camera's not working, though. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yeah, just real quick, and I appreciate you taking the time. I know Brian Sheward is going to want to jump on the line as soon as possible. In general, appreciate Daniel Brown's effort on this as well. This cafe is part of the growth within Simtra. The old Baxter site. For adding new employees and expanding the work experience. So the ability to enhance the cafe for those employees is critical to the enhanced success for the employee experience within the campus. And so we're excited to be doing this work and to be ensuring the success for the campus as well as the continued employment within the community. And really to what Daniel Brown had stated, it was more of a technicality. It looked like a LOMR was not applied for previously, and this improvement, which is outside, is something that would not be, to my understanding, impacted by the floodplain or the waterway because of the fact that it is already on an elevated structure. But I'll let Brian Schubert, who's the civil engineer on this, can do it justice more. So it looks like he's able to call in now, and I hope we can have him talk on the matter.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, everybody. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Sheward, would you kindly raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Yes, please proceed. Thank you.
No, I very much appreciate it. I apologize. I was in between two things, and sincerest apologies. But David bought me some time to be able to join on my cell phone here. Daniel, do you have those slides that I emailed over earlier today?
Yes, we'll pull those up.
All right, thank you so much.
We have them.
Daniel did a very nice job of outlining what this petition is for Simtra. Again, my name is Brian Sheward with Kimley Horn Associates. Our offices are at 500 East 96th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana. I appreciate your time tonight. If you can slide, go ahead and go down to the next slide down. So members of the BZA, this is just outlining again the entirety of the Centra campus, which is a compilation of multiple buildings, as you know, and the circle that's there kind of on the south central portion of the site is the area that we're talking about. So if you scroll down to the next slide, this is a zoom in with a current image, which I think helps show this. This is a three-sided, and we have pictures as Daniel had shown. It's a three-sided structure. It's been there for some time, and as it was outlined in the staff report, the floor elevation, you're looking down through the top, down to the floor. The floor elevation was constructed intentionally 2 feet above the base flood elevation of the stream that you see just to the southeast of the yellow box. So that's a three-sided outdoor enclosure. If Daniel, if you can scroll down to the next slide. This, I think, paints a good picture. So FEMA, and this is, Daniel is correct, FEMA shows on the flood insurance rate map that this particular area is encumbered by a floodway, a special flood hazard area. And this sometimes happens where FEMA draws the line in their maps, but they're not going out and collecting topographic survey to the degree in which we would for a development project. So they're showing this area as being within the floodway, and the yellow line that I'm drawing in an angle there is representative of the base flood elevation for that stream as it crosses this area. So because this floodway, according to FEMA, overlaps this particular box, that's why we're here tonight asking for a variance. So go ahead and scroll down to the next slide. This is complicated because it's got a lot of lines in it, but the intent behind this is to show that we collected a topographic survey for our project, and we found that true elevation of this area inside the enclosure is in fact 2 feet, and in many cases more than 2 feet by a few inches higher than 851 point, or 850, the 2 feet above the base flood elevation. So according to the real situation out there, this area is adequately high enough to be out of the base flood, but according to FEMA, it's still within the area. So we have a discrepancy is why we're bringing this to you. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Daniel. I think this helps paint the picture where the yellow line that I've sketched over the image, that elevation as surveyed is at 845.1. You can see that there's a few feet of drop to get down to asphalt and turf grade. And that difference in height is the discrepancy that we're talking about. So FEMA doesn't recognize or is oblivious to the fact that this is built up. And that's why it's not reflected this way in the map, the FEMA map. Daniel, if you can scroll down. This is the same picture you had seen before. This is inside. Yeah, go ahead and keep scrolling. This is the same image. So this is a record of some time ago when this was originally built. The same standards applied. So they intentionally highlighted the fact that they would build it 2 feet above the base flood elevation. And this is evidence that that was the basis of this in the past. And it's worth noting the exterior 3 walls are not intending to be even replaced. So we're literally just doing work within the confines of the enclosure as it is today. Go ahead and scroll down to the last slide, I think is the last one. So in summary, these improvements are related to interior cafeteria work and improvements that Centra is doing to enhance their campus. That's the whole intent of this. And with that improvement project, which is mostly inside the building, there is a small amount of exterior improvements, which is this area on the south side of the building. We did collect site topographic surveys to verify that this was in fact built 2 feet above, as they said in the past they would, and evidence shows that it was in fact 2 feet higher. And in the interim time over the last month, Centra and my firm, Kimley Horn, we've been released to go ahead and do a letter of map revision or a LOMR for the entire campus, not just this one location, so that we can work with FEMA to get this flood limit area across the site properly denoted against true topographic survey. I will note that process will take anywhere from 12 to 24 months to go through the hydraulic modeling and the permitting process through FEMA. So it's not something that happens right away, but Centra is committed to cleaning up the record that it's caused some problems in terms of where they can build on site. And we've been able to identify that the FEMA maps don't 100% accurately reference what the situation is out there. So we're doing that in the background, and staff's aware of that as well. And just wanted to note again that staff recommends approval on this petition. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's our case here.
Thank you so much, sir. Do members of the BZA have questions?
It sounds like you're making interior improvements as well, and this is just the exterior that you need our variance approval for. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Brian, if you could, just for the sake of the rules of procedure, for 8B, which is the interior landscaping variance, which staff did not present on because of your verbal communication that you were requesting a continuance, the rules of procedure say that any continuance requested after the 7-day period of time must be approved by the BZA at the stated meeting. The criteria for continuance would be that the Board of Zoning Appeals finds just and good cause for the continuance. Could you just briefly mention your justification for requesting the continuance on the interior
Absolutely.
landscape?
Yes, absolutely. And I'd be happy to speak at length on that, but I'll spare you. So this is an existing campus, as you can tell. The case, the 8B case, which we're asking for a continuance, the reason we're asking is because staff recommended denial, and we want to work more with staff on finding a potential middle ground. We've communicated with staff earlier today on that. We're intending to meet next week to talk in greater detail. But in essence, this is a existing developed site. The zoning ordinance, specifically the parking and landscaping ordinance, have evolved over time. And so with our what we call Project Greenlight, which is the new project along Curry Pike on the west side of the campus, in order to get approval for that project, we were asked to upgrade the landscaping across the entire campus. And so we did an inventory of existing plant material across the campus, as well as reviewing the parking standards that are in effect today versus that are different than they were at the time that the campus was developed. And the basis of the variance request is that the current ordinance would tell us that we need to have approximately 43 additional parking spaces within the existing parking lots converted over to landscape islands because of you can only have so many parking spaces in a row before they need to be broken up by interior parking lot landscaping islands. In this particular case, it's an existing condition. So for two reasons, the practicality of constructing those is a burden to us to construct because the site was not developed to drain towards parking islands that weren't originally designed. And then secondly, it's within the floodway. We proposed to try to minimize the amount of work within the floodway. And then lastly, that's 43 parking spaces that are valuable to Centra that they'd prefer not to lose. Lastly, the increase in landscaping material, Centra is more than happy to include that, but we were going to request an alternative landscape plan to take that material and move it elsewhere around the site in lieu of cutting in the islands within the existing parking lot. So that's the gist of it, but yes, it would be our request to formally ask for a continuance so we can continue to work with staff to hopefully find a middle ground and come back in the following months to seek that variance.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, we will be hearing from the public, those who are in favor and those who are opposed, if any. And if anybody is opposed to either of your requests, then we will come back to you. So are there members of the public who are in favor of this petition? Please come to the podium in the Nat Hill room or raise your virtual hand. Is there anyone opposed to this petition? Oh, there's a gentleman. Oh, is there anyone opposed to this petition? Please come to the come to the podium in the Nat Hill room or raise your virtual hand. Seeing none, we come back to the Board of Zoning Appeals for discussion and or motion. I'm not hitting on all cylinders tonight.
I can make a motion if there's
Thank
no
you. Great.
comment. So I move approval of VAR-25-8A due to the fact that the loading dock is above regulatory base flood elevation and is a flood protection grade. And also move continuance of VAR-25-8B.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve VAR-25-8A for the buildable area, special flood hazard area, Chapter 813 variance, and to continue the interior landscaping to Chapter 830. The continuance date would be June 4th, 2025. A vote yes. We had spoken to them prior about that date, so that's how we know that date. But a vote yes would be to approve 8A and continue 8B to June 4th. Margaret Clemens?
Yes.
Guy Loftman?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Pamela Davidson?
Yes.
Motion is approved 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Loafman. Thank you for presenting to us. I'm sure your employees will enjoy the cafe. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
That's right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, we move on now to variances 5 and 6 on our agenda, and that involves VAR-25-9A and B concerning buildable area with a special flood hazard area. And so the variance is to Chapter 813, and variance 95-B, 25-9B, concerning a maximum impervious cover to Chapter 805, and this concerns the Lautenbach maximum impervious cover variance and the Lautenbach buildable area variance. And this concerns a property at 7740 North Lakeview Drive. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, we have two design standards variances before you, one to maximum impervious cover, and then one to buildable area, specifically special flood hazard area. So the purpose is to permit a new approximate 1,540 square foot residential accessory structure. In this case, it is a garage. So the zone for this property is Residential 1, or RES for short. And this zone limits impervious cover, including driveways, to 7,000 square feet in total. And the site contains approximately over 26,000 square feet when accounting for the proposed improvements. And that is according to the Indiana land surveyor, Scott Purdue. Prior to the adoption of the CDO, this petition site was zoned suburban residential, or SR as it was known as, which had a minimum open space requirement of 40% of the lot size. So this would not have included the structures such as driveways or open courts. So that's the distinction between the previous ordinance versus the CDO. And then also, despite being at a higher elevation, which is 641.6 feet, than the base flood elevation of 635.1 feet for this area, the location of the proposed structure is still located within DNR mapped floodplain, so a variance is still necessary for the scope of this project. So just a brief discussion on impervious cover. On the left-hand side of the screen, I just have a snippet from the certified plot plan that was submitted to staff. And I have highlighted the overall impervious surface of 26,037 square feet. And that is what the surveyor noted. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, I have a site conditions map, which is also a staff exhibit. So in green, we have the location of the septic system. In blue, and I apologize, the letters are a little bit difficult to read on the screen, but the blue square indicates the location of the proposed garage. And the purple square represents an alternate location that the petitioners could locate the garage, and they would be outside of the mapped floodplain. Then I will move into the second part of this discussion, which is the floodplain. The floodplain administrator and also assistant county planning director Tammy Bierman did do some background research on the floodplain area, and she did submit what we call a FARA, a floodplain analysis and regulatory assessment. And that is where she had indicated that despite DNR identifying this area as being in a mapped floodplain, the actual ground elevation was about 6 feet, 6.5 feet above the base flood elevation. And then on the right-hand side of the screen is the floodplain, local floodplain permit that she issued for this project. So that floodplain permit, which is FP-25-2, was issued on March 13th of this year, 2025, because it met the Chapter 825 standards. So basically, if an alternate location was chosen that does not require a floodplain development permit, then this project could proceed without the need for a variance to the special flood hazard area. So the petitioner was given that option to apply for a FEMA letter of map amendment, which is also called a LOMA, which could have amended the map to remove the location chosen for the structure. However, the petitioner opted not to do that and opted to come to the BZA. That is still an option for them to do going forward if they would like to do that. But just for this case, they chose to go the variance route. And on the right-hand side of the screen, that blue color, that indicates the mapped floodplain area. And I apologize, I said DNR, but this is actually FEMA. This is just the location, and then an aerial view on the right-hand side. So this does butt up to Lake Monroe, so they do have a shoreline.
Is it Lake
Lake
Lemon?
Lemon or Lake Monroe?
Lake Lemon.
Lemon.
So it is not in an eco area, but it is in a Lake Lemon overlay area. And these are just some site photos from staff's visit. So if you look at the top right photo and then the bottom left photo, that is the area that was indicated to be where the proposed garage will go. And it might be a little bit difficult to tell, but from the other photos you can see that the elevation is significantly higher in this portion of the property. And then once you get towards like the tennis court, that's where the elevation starts decreasing. This is the petitioner's submitted certified plot plan. And then I have a zoomed in version here indicating where the structure is going to go. It is showing as meeting all setbacks, and that includes the 50-foot setback from the Lake Lemon normal pool elevation of 630 feet. And the petitioner's representative also asked that I include these construction plans that are also in the packet, but I will also show them here on the screen. This does lead me into staff's recommendations. So for the special flood hazard area variance, planning staff does recommend denial. According to the DNR Flood Analysis and Regulatory Assessment Report, the location of the proposed structure is above the base flood elevation. However, the proposed location could be redesigned to be closer to the existing home and further from the lake. If redesigned closer to the home, it would have the potential to no longer require the variance. And then for the maximum impervious cover variance, planning staff is also recommending denial due to the fact that practical difficulties have not been demonstrated, as the petitioner could reduce the size of the proposed structure or locate the proposed structure over an area currently counting towards the total impervious cover. So additionally, the proposed location adds further impervious cover for driveway turnaround areas, which could also be reduced and redesigned if the garage is placed closer to the existing home. So for context, if the board were to deny the buildable area special flood hazard area variance, it would just mean that they would not be able to build in the current proposed location because it is a mapped floodplain area. And if the board were to deny the maximum impervious cover variance, essentially the property is locked in time and would not be able to make any further impervious improvements.
Hey, do members of the BZA have questions for staff?
I'm getting confused about the old and the new. Before the CDO was recently adopted, would they have been able to do either or both of these things?
So the special flood hazard area is still the same, so that has not changed, regardless of what ordinance is in effect. The maximum impervious cover, that is strictly due to the passage of the CDO, so it does have different standards than what the previous ordinance had.
And would this have met the previous ordinance but not this one?
I believe that is stated in the petitioner's letter, which is Exhibit 4 of the packet. I do believe they state it, and I can read it. It says that under the petitioner's letter, which was submitted by their surveyor representative, Todd Borgman, with Smith Design Group, it says the new CDO has changed the impervious surface requirements for our zone from the 40% of total lot area to 7,000 square feet total. When the home was purchased in 2020, the existing impervious surface was 21,331 square feet. Any proposed increase to this number would require a variance. If the old zoning ordinance were still in effect, our proposed increase would still be below the allowable 40%.
And do we have any dispute with that, or do we accept that as?
That is correct.
Okay, very good.
And that's about the impervious cover, not the floodplain, correct?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about with that.
Well, I'm
In
asking
specific-
about both, but the impervious cover is clearly, would have been allowed under the old. The DNR flood zone wouldn't be allowed under either one. But it's above the base flood elevation. So if it's above the base flood elevation, what makes it not allowed?
So we have an additional standard, which is just our buildable area standard, which was in the prior ordinance, a countywide buildable area. We say things like flagpole lots, the flag of the pole of a lot is not buildable, fall zones of WCF areas, including special flood hazard areas that are mapped. So basically, our floodplain protection ordinance is focused on some of the more serious zones of the floodplain, but all of the different delineations of the zones are regulated by our local ordinance. So we're actually more restrictive than the state requirements. So that's why this is being asked for at this point.
And if they hurried up and gotten this in a year ago, it might have been permitted, but because they didn't, it's not permitted.
We would have still had to have, as Sean mentioned, the first variance even a year ago, or I think we communicated with them about the letter of map revision that they could otherwise have done.
Right, right. I got it. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Morris.
Yeah, so Sean, my question is about last month's Plan Commission meeting. We had a discussion about changing the maximum impervious cover area. And a lot of that was centered around whether a driveway counted or not. This is putting you on the spot, but do you happen to know how much of area the driveway is covering in this case? When I'm looking at the statistics that you shared earlier, it looks like the stats on maximum impervious surface are quite a bit higher than what are allowed. So I'm not sure that taking the driveway out of that would still bring it into compliance, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I do have on the screen that little snippet from the certified plot plan where the surveyor indicated how much impervious surface for each category was. I'm not sure if they calculated the total current driveway, but they did include the new pavement to be roughly 2,795 square feet in addition to what is there currently. What's that? Okay, yeah, I think the drives and sidewalk front, I think, is what they are saying is what is currently there for the drive. So you would take the 2,795 added on to 6,623 square feet, and right off the bat, they're exceeding the 7,000 square feet that's allowed.
Without adding
Right.
anything else. Right, okay. Thank you.
Right. The tennis court all by itself without the house exceeds the 7,000 square feet. Is that right?
That's true, yeah.
So they're already vastly out of compliance. They just want to be a good deal more vastly out of compliance.
Okay, we'll hear from the petitioner, the petitioner's representative. Please come to the podium and sign in, and then I'll swear you in. Mr. Lautenbach, is that your name?
Pretty good, yeah.
How do you say it?
Lautenbach.
Lautenbach. Okay, would you kindly raise your right hand? And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Well, you have 15 minutes to address us, and then...
Yeah, so I'm a little bit out of my league because it's the builder and the surveyor kind of been spearheading this. They couldn't make it tonight, but I wanted to come down and maybe answer any questions I could do with it. I did want to talk a little bit about the placement of the suggested placement of the barn. Definitely put some thought into it. I got people that are behind me that want to see the lake, of course. And I build it on top of the wall where the purple square is, it totally blocks their view. And if I put it where that blue square is, it's kind of tucked down a little bit, and I'm not making it super high either because I want to keep. So that's why we want it in that corner. If you put it kind of down, there's kind of a natural, like, flatter area there. And my understanding, I guess, from the surveyor and from the builder was that we were like 6 or 7 or 8 feet out of the floodplain, like the map was wrong. So I was hoping that that was proved through the process, that part maybe doesn't need a variance. But if we put it where it doesn't bother anybody that's behind me, we do need to have obviously a drive to get to it. So you can kind of like run along the top ridge in the back there, and then kind of it would come down to the blue location. So that just a little bit of reasoning about the placement of it. I guess I was going to add also that, I plan on making it nice so it's not going to look like a gaudy barn. I want it to match the house. The house is like all red brick. We got this house from like 5 years ago. It was uninhabited for like 3 years, and for sure there's a ton of stone there. But I could definitely use a garage space. We got a ton of kids for the gear, and I got 4 kids that are driving, and all the things. So that's why we want to build the garage. The other thing I was just going to add was originally the lot, which is a heck of a lot, we're super fortunate to get it, was 6 lots. That's my understanding, or that's the lore of the property that I know, and it was consolidated into 1 to build the house that you see there now. And I don't know if that mattered at all, but I thought it would be worth maybe sharing. All I have to share, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to look at it.
Thank you.
I have a question. You said that the purple square would block your neighbor's view of the lake. Is that the house at the bottom of our picture here on the screen? The one that's bisected by the yellow line? Is that the house whose view would be blocked of the lake?
Actually, it would be the folks that are behind me. So the lee of the lake there, my neighbors if I'm looking at the water to the right, they would not be blocked, but there's homes behind, like up on a bluff right there. The neighborhood kind of drops down, and then there's like a little bit of a hill there. They would be impacted by it. And honestly, there's 2 reasons. One would, would affect their property values and everything else. And I don't think it's super friendly as a neighbor. And the other piece is if I put it there, it would just really look like it's just a huge box sitting right on the very top of the hill. And I think it wouldn't look very good. The neighborhood as a whole.
Lots to the
Yes.
left, yeah. There
Yes.
are several lots there.
And my second question is, to build in a floodplain, does that affect insurance values? Do you know if that is, or is it irrelevant if it does or not?
I was going to get some guidance from the
know.
surveyors. If I can get it, what is it, the Loma or whatever, if I can get it approved that it's not in a floodplain, because if it's in a floodplain, the whole house is in a floodplain, because it's actually higher than what the house is at that spot. I mean, if you're with the untrained eye, if you're standing in that spot and you look at the house is actually further down the hill, and it's definitely not in the floodplain. So again, I'm a little bit out of scope in terms of what I know or how to speak, but that's.
So staff has put up there that if the floodplain map had been amended, if they had sought an amendment, this variance wouldn't be necessary.
It's, the report also states that the location is at 641.6 feet and the base flood elevation is 635.1. So he's correct in saying he's almost 7 feet above the base flood elevation.
Thanks.
Just between us, without it being more part of the record, I guess, I think it would behoove you to seek that floodplain map amendment, because your rates might go down or may not increase, and then it also affects the county overall, just as a point of information.
Yeah, any guidance on how arduous that process is?
That process is actually not too difficult, so we can help you with that.
Totally, we would totally do that.
That's good to, pardon me?
I said I would totally pursue that.
Yeah, it'd be good for you and good for the county. And when we're deliberating here, I think we should keep that in mind, because this could be done by right, correct? If that map amendment had taken place. So with that in mind, are you, yes, Mr. Lockman?
Let me just, if you put the garage in the alternate location that is suggested, it doesn't affect your view of the lake, is that right?
No, not at all.
So you're just trying to do it because the whole property will look better, and particularly because it'll make your neighbors' properties more valuable because they'll have a better view of the lake. Is that right?
That's 100% correct. I mean, the house is a little crazy as it is. I don't really want to make it any more in your face.
Okay, so, I'm sorry.
I was just going to add, if it's of any value, I would be open to a contingency of filing a LOMA and doing the whole
I
thing.
think that would be helpful to you and to us if you did. Okay, so we will now turn to the public, and if there's any negative comment, you'll have an opportunity to return.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the podium in the Nat Hill Room or raise your virtual hand. And please raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, Mr. Killian?
Do.
Thank you.
I support this, and I encourage you to support this. I think it makes sense. It's above the base floor elevation, or base flood elevation, excuse me. I also believe, because a few months ago, this could have passed as far as the impervious surfaces go. You point out correctly, you put a tennis court on your property, all of a sudden that kicks you out. Seems a little stringent to me. But also, I think, not that it's terribly relevant here, but to some degree, I think it is, the character of the petitioner. And I think what he's trying to do with the placement of this building is very relevant. To the east of this, there are several homes along there that would be tremendously impacted by the location of this property. And I can speak to the character of the petitioner. Our paths have crossed at Danny Smith Ballpark, where we both volunteer. And the petitioner has completely funded a project to make part of the park handicap accessible. And so I think, along with the location of this structure, and just using that as an example, then that speaks to the character of the petitioner. I would encourage you to support this.
Thank you very much.
I have one question. Do you own property in the neighborhood, or are you just because you've coached with him, you're familiar with it, and you're not the builder of the garage?
That's correct. I'm not. I'm involved at the ballpark. We've met one time.
Thank you.
I do. I am on the board at the ballpark. He coaches at the ballpark. I mean, our paths cross. I feel like I know the character of him, and I think the location speaks to that. But I'm not the builder. I don't have an invested interest in this property.
Your shirt says Keystone Construction, so I just wanted to make sure whether you were the proposed builder for the project.
I'm not.
You're not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Are there members of the public who would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Seeing none, we come back to the BZA for further discussion and/or a motion.
Well, I'm pretty sympathetic to the petitioner and emotional. I've heard anything else anybody else wants to say, but it's I think a delicate dance that we have between an ordinance a little while ago and the current ordinance. It's certainly would not impair the stability of a natural or scenic area, or make anything more dangerous, or that would depart from the character of the neighborhood. Wouldn't create any health issues, so that it seems appropriate to me under the standards which control our decision for design variance approval.
Before, I have one question for the staff. On this impervious surface, it has to be because we're getting more rain, more densely, in spurts. It has to be for that. In living on Lake Lemon, that washes right into the lake, I would think, because of the topography, everything rolls down. Even a tennis court has some porous nature to it. Do you all suggest to people with their driveway they use some material versus others that can let run water, or is that just ridiculous? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll mention for properties that are on any lake, Lake Lemon, Lake Monroe, there is still a rise that you see. We use that somewhat as they can, kind of slowly protect the property owners by making sure it doesn't get too high. So it's not just like meant to be a detention pond for everyone's impervious cover. So we still have to keep that in mind. But I will say that, we have a purpose statement drafted in the text amendment that will be going through to the Plan Commission. And for those interested, I do encourage them to read through it. But right now, we do include gravel and pervious pavers as part of our impervious definition. And that is because after enough automobile traffic on those materials, it does end up being a lot like asphalt in terms of having runoff. I will say, though, that once someone does asphalt their driveway from being gravel, you may have more concentrated sheet flow, which can be another issue. So gravel may have a lesser impact to some extent, but it's about the same.
What about the pavers? This is just between you and me.
Yes, the pervious pavers, we've talked to the stormwater program about that, but those tend to not be maintained well over time, and their experience with those out in our community with the soil types that we have are that it does not really drain well.
Thanks. Jeff, did you have
I appreciate the petitioner considering the neighbors and the neighborhood and the placement, so I'm less concerned about that. I could support, putting it where the petitioner wants to, but I am still stuck in my mind on the impervious surface because what they're proposing is substantially higher than what's allowed under the ordinance. But I'm also hearing Mr. Loftman, and he's given me a convincing argument to vote otherwise, so that's kind of my thoughts.
I'm going to be voting in favor of this. So just to let you know, I'm convinced. So whoever wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve variance 25-9A, variance 25-9B, 9A being Lautenbach maximum impervious cover variance to Chapter 805 and 809 Lautenbach buildable area. I think that we have established that those are appropriate in this case because the approval will not be injurious to the public health and in fact will not impair natural or scenic area but will improve it compared to the alternate location. And it won't make anything more dangerous, and it would not affect the use or value of any adjacent property. In fact, if anything, it will increase the value of adjacent property. These are the minimum variance needed to approve the design standards. In light of that, I move we.
Jeff, did you want to split those apart or do them one after another? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve both VAR-25-9A and VAR-25-9B, which is maximum impervious cover and buildable area special flood hazard area. A vote yes is to approve both variances. Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Pamela Davidson?
This one's hard, but I'm going to vote yes.
Margaret Clemens?
Yes?
Guy Loftman?
Yes.
Okay, motion is approved 4-0.
We did not put the Loma requirement on there, but I know it's in your best interest and you'll take care of it with staff. So good luck and congratulations, but good luck especially with all the children you're dealing with. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, we're moving on to the next case, and this is VAR-25-10, Humphrey Maximum Impervious Cover Variance to Chapter 804 concerning two 4.79 plus or minus acre parcels in sections 32 and 33 of Perry Township at 630 East Empire Mill Road. And I believe that Ms. Crecelius will be reviewing these with us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
So as you stated, we're off of East Empire Mill Road and we're in Perry Township. So we're looking at an unplatted lot that is 4.79 acres. You've seen this lot previously for variances to allow a detached accessory dwelling unit for an existing home and for the petitioners to build a new primary residence on the property. It is zoned agricultural residential 2.5. So they are applying for a maximum impervious cover variance to Chapter 805. If you remember back when we saw those accessory dwelling unit variances, they had a preliminary sketch of their plot plan. So that was a rough drawing with the placement of the existing home and an approximate placement of a future home with no detail of the footprint. So they have applied for their building permit. We have a solidified plan in place, and we were able to see that the impervious cover and calculated it now that the new CDO has been adopted. I believe we heard those variances in, I want to say, January. So we see that the impervious cover is exceeding the allowed limit for the AGR zoning district. So on screen, and I've got zoomed in pictures of these, but so on screen we have their certified plot plan by surveyor Doug Graham with Bynum Fanyo. On the left are screenshots just to see those. So these are not scaled perfectly. So if we need to see the whole view, I can go back one slide. So on the left side of the screen is the existing impervious cover. That is 17,085 square feet. So as you've heard tonight, you get 20% of the lot size or 20,000 square feet, whichever is less. So basically, once you exceed a certain lot size, you just have 20,000 square feet to work with. So they were already very close with the existing dwelling unit that is now the accessory dwelling unit, a large garage, a large area of paved asphalt and concrete, and an existing shed on the property. So you can see, it's a large asphalt area. It's already got a long driveway. Now add in the new proposed primary residence with a new longer driveway extending south. We're looking at an additional 9,330 square feet. So that comes to a total of 25,420 square feet. This is an approximation. I measured this off of the certified plot plan. It's close enough that's, they could pursue their own measurements, but it's exceeded the maximum enough that they didn't need to have their surveyor recalculate that. Okay, so we've gone through, you've heard the definition of impervious cover before. So on screen is just the existing accessory dwelling unit, it will become the accessory dwelling unit. These are photos from last fall when they pursued a rezone. So we've got pretty fall colors in the photo. So existing driveway from the existing asphalt concrete area looking south at where the new proposed primary home would be. So pretty long driveway towards the back. And then we can see an accessory structure there on the left side of the screen. So we often think about alternatives when we're writing a report and reviewing and thinking about what a recommendation would be in the ordinance and the standards of approval. So the petitioner could relocate the proposed home to be closer to the existing structure. That could shorten the driveway. That shortened driveway would remove approximately 2,500 square feet, but that reduction would not mean that the petitioners could still meet the 20,000 square feet. They would still be over it. The septic location that was approved on site for the construction of the new home is located at the far southern side of the lot. To relocate the home farther north would require more land disturbance connecting that residence to the septic, or they would have to completely reapply for a septic system, which they've had that septic permit now for a good amount of time. So To meet the standard, only a reduction in the existing impervious cover or a significant reduction in the footprint of the proposed home would allow the petition, well, both, to meet the 20,000 maximum impervious cover standard. The petitioners did receive the variance to allow for the existing home to exceed the 1,000 square feet of the detached accessory dwelling unit size. So that also in itself adds to the total site impervious existing and proposed. Otherwise, the site meets all of the required design standards, including setbacks, or has received prior variances for the use. So because of this, we do recommend approval of this variance, VAR 2510, citing that the variance request satisfies the standards for design standards approval, and that if approved, any additional impervious surface not shown on the certified plot plan would require an additional variance or require existing impervious cover to be removed as a result in no net gain of impervious cover. I would also like to note that we do not necessarily apply that if you propose, say, a new structure on an area that's already impervious cover, say you wanted to place a shed and you're going to locate it on concrete, we wouldn't call that a, right, it's the same, we would not count that, just as clarification. So future variances could be required if they proposed another structure, but for what's on this plot plan is covered under this variance request. So does anybody have any questions for me? Okay.
Question. So we turn now to the petitioner's representative, for making your case to us. Hi. Are you Kaylee?
Yes.
Hi, it's good to see you.
Hi.
Hi, would you please raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You have 15 minutes.
I don't have a whole lot to say. Honestly, I think it does say like 25,000 square feet. I had Bynum Fanio measure it also, and I think it was more like 23. I think we were only over like 3,000 some square. Not that that makes a huge difference, but I don't know if you guys remember us. We've been here several times now. So we've been really anxious to get started. The whole point of this is to be close to the family business next door and to be able to take care of my father-in-law, and he was in a bad accident and stuff. So just to be closer to family, basically, and to be able to help out. So we would really appreciate it if this could.
Thank you.
Now, you're the daughter who bought the house, and then the dad no.
So I'm the daughter-in-law. That's my mother-in-law.
Yes.
It's her home.
Yes.
The existing structure is their
Yes.
home that has
Yes.
become the dadu.
Yes.
And so our home will become the primary residence.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from the public now. Okay. Are there members of the public who are in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the podium or raise your hand. Are there members of the public in opposition to this petition? No. Okay, so we return to the BZA for further discussion and/or motion.
I'm going to move we approve the variance 25-10 Humphrey maximum impervious cover variance to chapter 804.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve VAR-25-10, which is the maximum impervious cover to 804. A vote yes is a vote to approve. Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Guy Loftman?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Pamela Davidson?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 4-0.
Thank you, and best of good luck and health to your father-in-law and to your husband. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're moving quite along to the last case of the evening, and this is VAR-25-11 for the Beetle Bloomington Investments Eco Area 2, maximum residential density 1 acre buildable area, variance to Chapter 823 concerning 1.33 plus or minus acre parcel in Section 26 of Perry Township at 3564 East Stip Road. And Ms. Crecelius, would you kindly review this for us?
Absolutely. So petition site is near the corner of Moffett and East Stip Road. It is 2 parcels making up a total of 0.58 acres. The standards that we are looking at, you've also seen earlier this evening. This is within the Lake Monroe eco area. So 823-5B for area 2 states that properties shall have a maximum residential density of 2.5 acres. Again, the petition site is 0.58 acres. And then number 4 states that each dwelling unit shall have at least 1 acre of total contiguous buildable area land. This property is a lot of record that is existing and is under that 1 acre, so it's 0.58 acres. So a variance is required because the property has applied for a building permit application to expand the single-family residential structure. The planning department sees this as an addition. There is an existing uncovered patio. So there is a small patio, concrete patio in the back. Here we go. So on screen is a pictometry photo of the house. You can see a back patio. They're proposing to cover this. That is an expansion of the footprint. It's an expansion of the roof line. And I'll just back up a couple photos. As we can see on screen are their design plans. So a relatively small addition, but it does require that planning issue an improvement location permit. And that in itself would require compliance with the CDO. So if both variances are the minimum required to issue an improvement location permit for them to receive their building permit. If the variances are granted, the variances will run with the land and the lot would be considered conforming with the CDO. And that, as referenced, the site is completely on flat ground. It is within buildable area and meets other requirements of the CDO like height limitations and setbacks. So on screen is a pictometry photo of the site looking south at the property. Here's the photo we just viewed with the existing uncovered patio. And on the back is a closer view of what the existing patio looks like. So on screen is the petitioner's letter. And staff recommends approval of the variance request as it is the minimum required for any addition to the existing residential structure. Does anybody have questions?
So Mr. Killian, I think you're already signed in and sworn in. If you would just tell us what's going on and why you want this, and we can get on with our evenings.
Yes, thank you. I'm David Killian. Just to be clear, this is an existing concrete patio. In the packet, it says that it's tearing out a concrete patio. That's not the case. We're putting a cover over this. We submitted a permit in October, 6 months ago. I do not believe that this meets the definition of an addition in the CDO. The addition says an exterior increase of floor area, number of stories or height of an existing building or structure, any walled and roofed expansion, etc. Regardless, this is a legal lot of record before the invention of the eco zone, which Ann has identified, and I appreciate your support in this variance request.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn now to the public. Are there members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please raise your virtual hand if you're online. Are there members of the public who are in opposition to this petition? Please raise your virtual hand if you're attending online. Okay, I turn back now to the BZA for further discussion and/or a motion.
I move we approve the variance 2511. It meets the 3 criteria for design standard approval, and it's a minimal change to substantially improve the property.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve VAR-25-11, which is the Beetle Bloomington Investments Eco Area 2 maximum residential area, residential density 1 acre buildable area. A vote yes is a vote to approve the petition. Pamela Davidson?
Yes.
Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Guy Loftman?
Yes.
Jeff Morris?
Yes.
Vote is approved 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Killian.
Everyone needs a cover in these hot, sunny days.
That's true.
And rainy days when we get those too.
That's right. And we need a little more space.
More space. That's it.
Thank you.
All right, I think we can move to adjourn our meeting unless we have anything else.
I do not have any reports.
Thank you. Thank you.